Thank you for joining our session today. Today we're going to be talking about Totango's way to manage upsells and improve your upsells with Totango. So for those of you that are not familiar with me, I'm Cecilia Tavel. I've been here for about 3.5 years and I work on customer success programs at Totango. Would love to stay in touch with you. If you have any questions or feedback for me, you can reach out to me directly. Just send me an email, cecilia@totango.com, and I'll be happy to stay in touch. So for today's agenda, we're going to be talking about how to decide what data metrics are needed to identify upsell opportunities. We'll work through setting up alerts for real-time notifications on opportunities that come up. We'll also talk about creating consistent upsell processes via success plays and also automating upsells via campaigns. And then we'll talk about tracking and reporting, and I'll present some suggestions for you. So if we start thinking about what is the right data that we need in order to identify our upsell opportunities. So one easy one, obviously, since we are getting usage data from you, we can look at usage data. So is somebody using the system a lot? Are they heavily leveraging specific areas of your system and can benefit from other systems as far as expansion? So that can be one area to focus on. Another one is license utilization. So if you have a kind of a standard licensing model where you sell seats or users, or even if there's another kind of licensing model that is unique to your business, you can leverage that. ROI. So do you know that the customer is receiving great ROI and now they're a really happy customer and you can focus on them and potentially get them upsold? Company demographics. So what type of business is this? Are you trying to expand in a particular type of industry or a particular types of sizes of companies? So that's one way to look at it as well. Satisfaction metrics. So do you have any collected data on customers, feedback to your product? Are they happy with you? Can you leverage that information and focus on getting customers that are happy with you upsold? And then support metrics. So do you have good statistics there that can be leveraged in your upsell opportunities as well? So really anything that you're currently tracking either in Totango or maybe other systems that can be leveraged for this type of decision. And if we don't have this data yet available in Totango, it's very easy to get that information in. So there's multiple ways to get data into Totango, either from your CRM system if you use Salesforce, or if it's a third-party system, you can automate the data flow into Totango via Integration Hub. So there's many ways to get the right data into Totango if it's not already there. So from there, if it's not something that's easily visible, like a kind of a numeric data point that is sent to Totango, a lot of times you can use Totango's metrics capabilities to come up with creative and really powerful formulas to expose kind of the ROI or statistics as to what is important to your business. So for example, in these 3 metrics that I have on the screen, the first one looks at tasks and touch points per user. And so creating a task and adding a touch point are specific activities that are tracked in the system. What you can do is basically come up with what is the average number of times tasks and touch points are used per user in a specific time frame. And then you can leverage that information. So if it's above a certain threshold, maybe there's a significant increase percentage-wise or significant drop. Those could be your ways to measure for either risk or opportunity. Same thing on the middle one, average time per active user. If time spent on the system is an important criteria for you as an organization, you can take a look at the overall time spent. If it's significantly going up, then you can use that as your threshold and a condition for an upsell opportunity. And then the third one down is the same one basically as the first one, is just looking at the number of times specific activities performed within your product. So in this case, how many times somebody views an account profile. So these are really good ways. If you're not familiar with metrics, they're part of our Pro Plus package. If you don't have them available to you within the settings sections, and if you're interested in learning more, please reach out to your CSM or reach out to me. This can be a really powerful addition to Totango to help you really understand and use the specific statistics to power your processes and come up with opportunities and even set up alerts for anything that is not a good thing. So for risk as well, it can be a great way to leverage information. So moving on. So if we start looking at the type of upsells to run, and what is your existing process like? Do you have a high touch model where each CSM manages a specific number of high touch customers, and so they're really engaged and they're really involved in the business? So it's kind of a more catered and consultative type of approach. Is there a low touch model where you can easily automate a lot of the interactions, and some of your upsells can be done kind of automatically, potentially with the campaigns that are available to you in Totango, so that the customer can essentially self-service themselves. And then cross-sell opportunities. Once you identify what would be a good cross-sell opportunity, how do you automate that, or how do you run that through a high-touch model as well? So there's multiple ways to approach an upsell. And just before we kind of dive into more details, I wanted to make sure that everybody's aware about the success flows and categorization. So now with the success flows being available, you can easily designate specific categories of the types of engagements that you have with your customers. If you haven't done this yet, again, this is a settings section where you can define your specific success flows or those categories. And you can easily just add an upsell one if you don't already have it. So this way, when you do have a specific touch point, or you assign a task, or you create a success play or campaign, you can easily categorize it as an upsell. And that allows you to kind of understand what type of activities are being run into Tango, what are your CSMs doing, and what types of interactions are they having. So it is important to start adding those categories in. And upsell one is the one that we're focusing on today. So please feel free to customize that for your business and add that in. Now, if we look at the high touch model and setting up some alerts and processes, this is a sample of a segment that looks at upsell opportunities for high license utilization. So my arrow on the left is pointing to the condition of license utilization is at least 80% in the last 14 days. And what we're doing here, we're actually, if you just focus on the email address, if you want to get alert on this, whenever there's a customer that enters this criteria, you can designate an email address within the trigger mechanism of segments to send an email. So every time this happens, there's going to be an email sent to this particular email address. So it's a good thing if you have a few accounts and you want to get an email every time there's a good opportunity, it will come into your inbox. You can also automate that through success plays. So once you have the conditions, this is another segment that looks at the particular group of customers that are good targets for an upsell. Again, looking at license utilization, they're in good health, and they've been with you for a certain amount of time. Now we can actually upsell and create a success play process. So this is when there's a specific defined upsell opportunity process that is defined in the system based on specific conditions. A success play is going to be executed, tasks are going to be assigned, they'll go to the designated CSMs, and then everybody is consistently following the same process. So this is something you can automate with the success plays. And then if we think about more on the low touch model, so if you have a lot of volume customers that don't necessarily have that one-to-one interaction with the CSM, and if there's good ways to select and define conditions for a good upsell campaign, you can automate that through the email communications powered by the Totango's campaigns. And a lot of this can be self-service. So if there's a way that your customer can basically click on the link and go through the upsell process on their own, that's super, because you can just send them the email with the right information, and then they can help themselves, and you can relieve some of the kind of the manual effort that is on your team. Some of the conditions or that you can look at is very similar to our highlight touch model. Basically, customers that are above or approaching license utilization cap, whatever that license utilization model is that you're working with. Or maybe they're heavily using specific features. So if they're using its feature X, maybe you want to promote an upgrade to premium feature Y. So there's other ways to look at it based on how they use your product and areas of the product that they use. So a lot of that can be powered with campaigns. And then once you have the definition, so this is a screenshot of a campaign that we're defining via a segment. And the conditions that I'm looking at is basically license utilization is more than 101. And the user is a key contact. So I want to only send this type of email to my key contacts, which are the ones that are going to be making the decision to purchase. So this is a segment that I will then turn into a campaign. So the same thing you can do is with low touch model as cross-sell. So for example, if a customer is using a particular area of your product really well, or not using a specific product area of your really well, like for example, in our case, we have a way to designate customers that are using success plays. And if they're not using success plays, we want to cross-sell them that particular feature set. So that's another way to automate that. Now, another campaign example, and we'll go into the live demo as well. But once you have the segment logic defined, you can easily just launch into a campaign from a segment, and then it's going to allow you to basically just build your conditions and criteria for what you're sending to the customer. You can customize your email subject, you can customize the email body to make sure that the email is relevant and targeted to the right audience at the right time. Now, if we switch gears a little bit here and talk about how to track all of this. So one area where this is easily tracked is in the revenue center. So if your company is not currently using us for the revenue center, please let us know if you're interested and would like to explore that further. But it is the financial component that ties into Totango really, really nicely, assuming that we have the information as far as the contract dates and contract values. You can easily track your progress for your upsells and all of the other specific buckets as far as growth, churn with the revenue center. So this is one way. The other way is also through the revenue centers, looking at it through the success manager breakdown. You can easily focus on the upsell column to see how everybody's doing up to date with their upsells and what the numbers are. So that gives you a kind of a window, and that centralizes information for the whole organization. And then you can also leverage reports. So reports in Totango are built from segments. So once you have a specific segment that's defined, so for example, I defined an upsell segment that looks at customers that are opportunities with high license utilization. I can track and trend and see how many customers I have on each particular date that qualify for an upsell. I broke it down by contract value and also by success manager. So you can easily have this kind of visualization available to you, so you can track and see over time how you're doing, how many opportunities each CSM has, how has that fluctuated. Hopefully you get more customers into the upsell opportunity potential, and hopefully we'll see this trend line go up. So that's another way to track. So with that, I'm actually going to jump out of this really quick and jump into our demo instance to show you how to do some of this in real time. So if we focus on the specific segmentation, and I'm in my webinar folder, I have a one-to-many folder here that I'm in. I have that same segment that we looked at. It's a user level segment that looks at upsell opportunities. It's looking at users that are key contacts. It's looking at license utilization that is above a certain percentage. And now that I have my users identified, what I can do is easily launch into my campaign. So I can build all my logic in my segments first, and sometimes that helps because you might change your mind or you might need to tune it before you go and actually build the campaign out. So once I'm happy with my criteria and my conditions, I can launch into the campaign directly from that segment screen, which makes it really easy. And now we can actually designate this as an upsell campaign. And as I mentioned, with success flows, you do want to make sure that you have those designated categories available. And that way you can make sure that you designate the appropriate one when you're running a particular type of campaign. In this case, it's going to be an upsell. I'm going to build my own custom campaign. I'm going to click on continue. From here, all of my segment conditions are already available to me. But if I need to refine them or add anything to them, I can always go back into my editor and infuse more information. If there's anything missing or I want to make it more granular, I can do that from here. And then I will click on continue. I can also specify a goal in this particular case. I'm not going to, but in cases where you're doing a campaign and you're trying to promote a specific feature usage of a specific area of your product, you can actually designate that as criteria. So for example, if I'm going to tell my customers that I want to encourage them to use documents or want them to create more documents, I can actually specify that in my goal. So I'm going to skip out of that and continue. And this is where I can actually start customizing my email. So I can have a really cool subject line. I can specify who's the sender. And the cool thing about Totango's campaigns is that they can come directly from the success manager assigned to the account. So it can come and kind of imitate the same kind of feel that you would have when the CSM just sends you an email directly. And then you can specify a fallback sender's name, an email address. If for some reason there is no CSM assigned, you can do that. And then you have a choice of options. You have different templates. You can make this a simple text template, or you can make it more infused with colors and banners and things like that. But I'm just going to choose a plain text one right now. And then if you're not familiar with campaigns yet, it is something that you can really use for making the message really cater to the customer. So if I have the first name of the customer, I can just address them by their first name. If there's no first name, I can just say hi there. The other cool thing is any data that's available in Totango can be infused into the body of the message. So if I'm trying to do an upsell campaign, I can actually send the user or the key contact of that account and let them know what is their license utilization in the system, or how many times they have done something. And basically you're exposing the information to the customer, and that information is specific to that customer. So it's something that is really, really nice, because the customer, when they open this email, they'll actually see their own statistics there. So you can infuse any of that data. You can infuse usage information. Any metrics that you create into Totango can also be infused into the message. After you're happy with what you're saying in the email text, you can preview it. You can send yourself a test email. And after you're done, basically, you just proceed and activate and schedule your campaign. So this campaign can be scheduled once. It can be scheduled for later. It can be an ongoing campaign, which I think it would make sense to do this as an ongoing one potentially. As soon as a new customer enters the criteria for an upsell opportunity, they'll receive the campaign. So I'll leave this campaign as saved right now, and I'll go back to segments, and I'll show you something that we have for account level lists or segments. Now, if we look at processes and how to automate some of this for your maybe high-touch customers via success plays, if we have a particular segment that identifies our upsell opportunity based on high license utilization, and the conditions here, license utilization is at least 80. Again, as we mentioned, we can send a trigger email, so we can send an alert to the CSM or a specific email group of people to let them know that there's an upsell opportunity. And the other thing we can do is launch into a success play. Again, once the conditions are defined, I can just launch into it directly from a segment. And I can define what my process should be for my customer success team to follow when there is an upsell opportunity available. Again, I'll specify this to be an upsell opportunity type of success play. And if I do need to refine any of the logic in the success play, I can do it with the editor. But assuming I'm happy with this condition, I can leave it there and click on continue. And now is where I can define my task. Reach out to discuss upsell. And I can specify to assign it directly to the CSM and who it's assigned by. Give it priority, normal, high, or low, and then due date. So I'll say maybe I'll give it 5 days, and I'll continue. And from here, all I have to do is just activate my success play. I'll activate it. It'll let me know how many accounts are going to be affected, how many tasks will be created. When I click on continue, that success play is going to be launched. There's going to be an email going out to the inbox of the CSM, and also they'll get that as a notification in their My Portfolio. So these are ways to automate and basically streamline processes and also customer communication. So the processes would be via success plays, and the customer communications would be via campaigns. The other thing you can do is obviously track this in reports. So if we look at reports and we look at specific tracking that I already showed you earlier. So if we look at the upsell tracker report, basically it's looking at our upsell opportunity segment, and it's adding that to our report. So we have high license utilization customers. We can see how this is trending over time. We can hover over this trend line and see how many customers we have on each given date that are qualifying for an upsell opportunity. And it is broken out by contract value and success manager. So if I wanted to click on the specific customer success manager to see who are the accounts that are upsell opportunities for them. I can do that. I can also change the breakdown. If you're not familiar with reports, you can actually change the breakdowns of all these data point components. And if I wanted to see it in a table, for example, so if I wanted to see all this information in a table, I can say see in table view and click on OK. And now I have this nice little table where I can see by CSM how many accounts they have as their high license utilization upsell opportunities. I can again click on all these and see who the specific customers actually are. So that's the reporting capability. So with that, it's kind of a quick overview on how to leverage the system and maybe start some of these upsell programs for you as a business. I'm going to let you guys type in any questions that you have at this time. So I'll hang on for a few more minutes and wait for questions if there are any questions. And if not, I want to thank everyone for joining, and we'll see you again at our next session next week. Thank you so much.